3 years ago today, Supernatural concluded its 15-year-long run as the longest show on the CW network and the longest American sci-fi show in history. 15 seasons and over 320 episodes, it's truly a marvel of television and will go down in history as an impactful piece of media. But what if I told you that, while decent enough, the series finale the show actually got isn't the best that it could have had? What if I said it wasn't even close? Carry On is about what you'd expect from the finale of Supernatural for what it was by the time it ended. Dean Winchester dies at the end, he goes out swinging on a normal hunt like he always said he would, and Sam Winchester moves on from hunting, lives a normal life with a kid, and eventually, after dying from natural causes, meets Dean again in heaven. It's a compelling ending, but what if I told you that it's too standard? Again, what if I said it wasn't even close to the best finale we could have had? Rewind time, back to 2010, May 13th to be exact. Supernatural aired its season 5 finale, titled Swan Song, and it's not only the best episode of the show and one of my favorite episodes of TV ever, it's the perfect ending the show could have had. It came just 10 years and 10 seasons too early. Swan Song is many things, but the thing that it is the most is conclusive. It wraps up the story that started all the way back in the pilot, and also wraps up every major character arc that needed to be wrapped up. Dean Winchester is a character plagued by decades of trauma and abuse. He spent all of his life with one goal: watch after his little brother Sam. It makes sense. They both lost their mom, their dad is busy a lot of the time. Dean had to be more than a brother, he had to be a mother and a father. But in doing this, Dean lost a part of himself, lacking anything that made him his own. This can be seen in how he responds to their father. He's a mindless drone following every order John Winchester barks. Dean's possessiveness over Sam goes beyond just controlling him and telling him what to do though, it even extends to something far worse. And perhaps one of the biggest overreaches possible in this show, Dean deprives Sam of death and forcefully brings him back to life in the season 2 finale. It makes for great fiction, sure, but looking at it realistically, Dean oversteps so far here that it's impossible to see a way back for him. Swan Song is conclusive, though. Sam proposed the idea of saying yes to Lucifer and jumping into the cage after taking back control. It's a last-ditch idea, but it's all they've got. Understandably and predictably, Dean is against the idea, and it's not until he has a conversation with Death, yes, the literal Death, that he understands the gravity of the situation. This isn't just about two brothers anymore. This is about the end of existence, and it's in that moment that he realizes he can't stand in the way of anything anymore. He realizes Sam is a grown man who's made choices, and this is a choice he must make. Dean Winchester learns to let Sam be his own person. Sam Winchester is a character plagued by decades of trauma and abuse. He spent all of his life under the harsh guard of his father and under the watchful eye of his brother. All of his life, his agency has been stripped away. His father controlled his every move, and we find out in this very episode that nothing in his life has been real. He has had prom dates and teachers and several other things, all being a part of Azazel's gang. Even before he was born, his mother agreed to let Azazel come into his nursery and infect him with demon blood. He lacks a choice when he's only even an idea. Sam Winchester dies in the season 2 finale. He's brought back to life not because of his own choices, not because he claws himself out of hell himself, but because his brother cannot let him go. Swan Song is conclusive. Sam's proposal to send Lucifer back to the cage is one created out of guilt. Guilt for starting the apocalypse, an act that, yes, he did commit, but one he committed out of manipulation. Manipulation that he found himself in because of years of trauma from other manipulation. It's a chance for him to take back everything that's happened, serve time, and save the world. It's not an easy decision for him to make. He wrestles with it. He gets Dean to agree, and then gets Dean to agree not to search for him afterward, something that Dean surprisingly does accept. The plan is all laid out. These two characters have finally reached a point of understanding and agreement. And then it all goes to shit. Lucifer knows about the rings. He knows about the entire plan. In one fell swoop, their entire operation is knocked over, and Sam Winchester once again loses his agency. He's taken over by the devil. His big choice to shove Lucifer in the cage isn't even his choice after all. Lucifer knew that it would happen. It was the plan for Sam to say yes. Did you ever realize this? Dean gets a choice. He tells Michael to screw off, and Michael does, choosing Adam to be his vessel instead. But Sam is constantly told by Lucifer that he will say yes. And even when he decides to say yes, it's not his own choice because it's always the plan. The climax of this episode is, in my opinion, the greatest thing Supernatural ever made. Everything builds up to this moment. It's a grand conclusion and final fight between Lucifer and Michael, two archangels, and it's just two white guys in jackets standing in a random cemetery in the middle of Kansas. Isn't that funny? The episode that ends the whole first 5 seasons concludes with this. It's not a big battle with loads of CGI or extensive costuming, it's a small scale, intimate setting, and it makes what happens next work even more. Sure, it could have been like the season 2 finale, or hell, they could have done something like season 13 does, but by doing it like this, in this very intimate moment, It allows for the final conflict to work so well that I cannot in any possible way imagine the finale going differently. It's just so damn good at how it executes everything that happens. Swan Song is conclusive, of course, and Sam has one last shot. One last shot to fix everything and take back his agency once more. With Michael off the board, Lucifer begins laying into Dean. Dean's statement that he's not going anywhere is compelling, as it shows that Dean isn't telling Sam to fight back or anything. He's not trying to get through to Sam at all. He just wants to be with his brother for the final moments, and that's all Sam needs. Sam is able to take back control. He remembers everything the two have been through. A reflection of the Impala sends memories flying back to him as he regains control and shoves the devil and Michael into the pit where they both belong, sealing himself along with them, finally making the first real choice that he's ever had. I also want to take a moment and point out the obvious, but I love the parallels between Michael and Dean and Sam and Lucifer. It's so painfully clear what Eric Kripke was trying to do, but it works so well. It's half the reason you can get engrossed in a conflict that boils down to two men standing in a field. Sam and Dean are Michael and Lucifer, but they're stronger. These two humans have a stronger and better bond than two primordial entities. Each time Dean claimed he wasn't going to leave Sam, Lucifer got angrier, punching at him, because Lucifer knew that deep down his brother would never do this for him. He would never stick by his side during something like this. Michael is the one that cast Lucifer down to the cage to begin with. Sam and Dean are nothing like Michael and Lucifer, despite being everything like them. I've seen a few people complain about the ending here, so I want to address those complaints next. One major complaint is that Dean only lives a normal life because Sam wants him to, and he was miserable where he lived it. I have two rebuttals for that. Throughout seasons 2 through 5, there's a switch between the characters. Dean starts to slowly become disillusioned with hunting. He starts to imagine a life without it. In fact, in his perfect dream world in season 2, he's not hunting, he's got a wife, and he's happy. The opposite happens to Sam. Over the course of the show, Sam becomes more interested in hunting. He's left this idea of a normal life behind and understands that this is who they are now. He had a chance to move into a normal life after Dean died at the end of season 3, but instead he doubles down and becomes a damn good hunter. By the end of the first 5 seasons, Sam might be a better hunter than Dean is. Dean always imagined going down swinging, and the two have completely changed their minds on the entire thing. And because Swan Song is conclusive, that's exactly how it plays out. Sam goes down swinging and is locked away in hell to save the world, and Dean retires as his mission is finally done. It's a complete inverse of from where the show began, and it's so good because you can see the characters grow to get to this point once we get to Swan Song. The other rebuttal that I'd like to throw is that we have no evidence within season 5's finale that Dean is unhappy with Lisa. He literally says in season 5 episode 17 that when he pictures himself happy, it's with Lisa and her kid. It's not until season 6 happens that the show points out how unhappy he is, how he couldn't do it, and how he couldn't live normally. I genuinely think that this wouldn't be an issue provided by people if the show didn't get renewed. You can't judge this episode as an ending based off of what happens in the following season, because the evidence wouldn't be there if the show had ended in season 5. There are practically no loose threads after this anyway. The only loose threads are ones that don't need to be filled. Sure, you could say you want to know what happens to heaven and hell with their leaders effectively gone, but do we need to know? Several amazing shows end without us getting all the answers. Hell, questions at the end of the day are part of what make a compelling finale work better. You get to imagine and theorize and think about what happens next. Sure, Chuck disappears at the end after him saying their endings are hard, but do we need to know what happened to him? It's pretty clear that Chuck was always meant to be a stand-in for Kripke himself. His disappearing is symbolic of Kripke's exit of the show, and sure, it could have meant that Chuck was God, and that probably was intended, but we don't need more seasons to figure that out. This is literally written as a swan song. It's called Swan Song. Eric Kripke, the writer of the show and creator, wrote this to be the ending of these characters. Yes, he knew the show was getting renewed, and yes, he knew that this would continue, but he wrote an ending to a show as he would do it, and that includes these elements. This is the true ending and the ending that Eric Kripke devised. And like Chuck says, endings are hard. You have to imagine how difficult this episode must have been for Eric Kripke to write. He got to write a conclusion that he devised, the wrap-up of everything that he's been setting up, but he knows that it's not the true end, and how do you even write like that? So yes, that's why there are loose ends. That's why Sam is there at the very end of the episode, and that's why he's there under the streetlight. If you want the perfect ending for the show, pause it right there and turn it off, because that's how Supernatural was meant to end, despite everything that had to be thrown in to accommodate for a season 6. That is the true ending of these characters, and that's where I like to imagine that everything's still wrapped up. Am I happy that the show continued? Sure, I love it, and I love so much of what happens after this episode. But it's disappointing that, no matter what, the show can never reach the levels of this episode when it comes to a finale. It never even once came close. And that's because, at the end of the day, Swan Song is conclusive.